Alright, let's talk technical, logistical stuff, all the facts about it. So, I am having a total hysterectomy with a bilateral salpinectomy, and I'm probably saying that wrong, but sue me, right? So there's different kinds of hysterectomy. So what I'm doing is a total hysterectomy. There is a partial hysterectomy, which typically is either removing part of the uterus or the entire uterus, but leaving the cervix intact. Because the cervix, a lot of people think is just like the surface that you can see, like if you got all up in a vagina and we're looking at it, like, oh, the surface, like the cervix. That's not the entire thing. It's actually, there's like a canal that's actually got some length to it. That's a very narrow opening to the bottom of the uterus, and it's actually like a section of the organ, not just the surface part. So, so they can take out just the uterus and leave the cervix in place, and that's typically done for cases where you're doing the hysterectomy for like typically non-cancerous reasons. There might be some kind of cancer things going on with the uterus or the ovaries, something like that you would do that for, but typically it's for something where somebody's getting rid of those parts because they experience like severe, ridiculous bleeding and cramping and things like that. So that's a partial. If you do a total hysterectomy, that is the entire uterus and the cervix. So it's that whole thing. That whole cervix. Get it? Funny? No, it's not funny. I'm sorry. I take that back. So that's a total hysterectomy. Salpinectomy refers to the removal of the fallopian tubes. So a bilateral means both of them are coming out. And I know I'm pointing up here. I know they're not like up here in my ribs, but it's weird to be gesturing down near my crotch. So fallopian tubes are coming out. My ovaries are staying in. If those are coming out, that would be called an OOPHORECTOMY. It's spelled really funky and weird, and it looks made up and really silly. We're leaving the ovaries in, and the reason we're doing that is because of my situation. It is incredibly unlikely, like almost nil, that anything could have possibly spread as far up as the ovaries. So we want to leave those in because if you take them out, you immediately, like literally overnight, go into menopause. And while that would have been a really fun mother-daughter bonding experience, most people don't get to do that, it's not something you want to do if you can avoid it. We're removing the tubes because if the uterus is gone, there's no reason for the tubes to be there, so it's more precautionary than anything else. They don't need to stay if the ovaries are staying. So you don't want to go into early menopause, other than it just being unpleasant, but postmenopausal women, because of the change in hormones and things like that, you are at an increased risk for osteoporosis, heart disease, neurological disorders, a whole host of things, dementia, and the longer you are in that state, the more likely all those things are. And so if you're going into menopause 30 years early, your chances of all more terrible things happening like go through the roof. So because we think they're very likely safe, we don't want to do that. There are hormone therapies that you can do to try to slow it down, slow the onset of menopause if it was coming out. But nothing will like I can't like take a pill and then until I'm 60 and then stop taking it and be like, oh, you're having menopause now. It's just a slower process. It still carries a lot of the same risks. It just makes it not as unpleasant at the time. So we're like, let's not do that. That is the one gamble that I'm willing to take because it's supposed to be like with 99.8% certainty, like ovaries are fine. So we're like, screw it, they'll stay in. Because they are staying in, they will still try to ovulate. This is really fun. So I won't have a uterus, so no more periods, which is phenomenal. But my ovaries are still going to try to do their thing, so they're still going to try to ovulate, which means I still get to PMS. And I don't get to ever know if I'm cranky because that's happening, or because I'm just tired of stupid people. Because I won't have a period to know if that's what's going on. Other fun thing that I learned through this whole process is that when you feel cramping on your period, it's not just your uterus, your ovaries are also contracting. So I not only still will PMS, but I'm still gonna have cramping. And that's bullshit. That's bullshit. But, you know, I think it's worth it for no menopause. So I'll take no periods. That shit's a pain in the ass. So cool. So even though a uterus isn't all that big, it will still leave like an empty space where all that stuff was. And I'm like, okay, what's gonna happen to that? And it turns out just the various body structures in the area will just kind of like shift around a little bit, and I'll just kind of take back over that space. Like intestines will kind of move around and things like that. I'm bummed. I thought for sure it would mean I could eat more cheesecake and there would just be extra space for that to go. And that's not how it works. And I call shenanigans on that too. But, you know, whatever. That's okay. Yeah, so they'll all move around to kind of take over that space. Ovaries will be nice and tucked away. The surgery that we are doing is a single incision robotic assisted laparoscopic hysterectomy. Lots of words. So laparoscopic is also known as minimally invasive. So I'm going to have a single incision done either in my belly button or just next to it. I have a tiny belly button, so I might not be able to do it in there. And I'm like, whatever, that's fine. Single incision. And all the tools they need will go through that single incision. It's also going to be vaginally assisted, so they're going to be going through my belly button incision and also like up in, and that's where they'll remove everything from the single incision up here, so that way they can get all the cutting tools in there and chop everything up into the bits they need, and then it'll all come out through my vag. It's a little weird. Yeah, to give them space for the word procedure, there we go, procedure, that's the word I was looking for, is after they do that incision, they actually will inflate my abdomen. I believe they use carbon dioxide for it. They inflate my abdomen so that way there's extra space for them to work without them worrying about having to hit anything else. So they'll make the incision, inflate, put their tools in, cut things up, look around with their camera, and remove all the stuff. So the nice thing is that means that I will have a much easier recovery. If you do an open hysterectomy, it's like a huge incision from like your pubic bone up to like just shy of your belly button, because they have to be able to get their hands in there. You doing it robotically assisted, that's why they're able to do the laparoscopic, is because a robot doesn't need big old honking hands to get into something. It's not an automated robot. It is, my surgeon is essentially a really good gamer, I guess, because they use a control panel and she controls it. So it's just an extension of her. And so that way she can go in and do everything. So it's not going to like do anything by itself, and there's no risk of it like going crazy and being like, let's cut everything. Like, she's got it. It's all under control. Yeah, so that is how all that goes. I'm really interested to see what's going to happen with this whole inflation thing. Apparently that is the most painful part of recovery, is 2 or 3 days after the surgery, because there's nowhere for the gas to escape to, is the gas will just start like migrating up my body, and apparently it likes to get stuck in your shoulders. So 2 or 3 days after surgery, this will hurt, and also my shoulders will hurt, because fuck me, right? God damn it. Yeah, so that'll be an interesting sensation, I'm sure. Like I said, the recovery is going to be a lot easier than it would be if they were doing an open hysterectomy. It's still not a huge walk in the park. It's more irritating than anything else. So it is an outpatient procedure. My procedure's at 9:30 in the morning. I report at 7:30 so we can do all the pre-op crap. They'll give me some drugs to make me not give a shit about the fact that I'm about to go into an OR, and then they'll knock me fully out. The procedure's supposed to take between 1.5 hours and 2 hours, and I'll wake up in recovery, and after they make sure that I'm good and check a couple things, then they'll send me home, and I will live on a couch for a little while. So recovery is technically 6 weeks, but what that means is that because they do have to, like, even though it's laparoscopic, it still counts as a major surgery. I mean, they're removing organs and stuff. So my body's got to have time to figure out, like, what the hell just happened, and heal the abdomen where they did have to do the incision and all of that kind of stuff. So I'll be on pain meds for a while, and then eventually I should be able to do most of my normal stuff once the stitches kind of settle in. It should be a lot better. When I had my original surgery, I had a problem sitting up at 90 degrees because I'm gonna just let you think about what having stitches on your insides might feel like if you pull on them. So I'll probably be mostly reclined for a little while, and then I should be good to go. But really, it's like I'm not supposed to lift anything that's over 10 pounds for the whole 6 weeks. So that way it doesn't like strain the areas that are still trying to heal and things like that. So it's just gonna be irritating that I'm not gonna be able to. I'm not gonna be able to go grocery shopping by myself because my limit is I can pick up a gallon of milk, and that is 8 pounds. So it's like, it's frustrating, but it shouldn't be too terrible. Mostly the biggest concern is that I'm gonna go, I feel fine. And then be like, lift up Griff and damage myself. So that's mostly why I have some people that are kind of helping me through the recovery period, is to make sure I don't do that. Because I'm stubborn and I don't like to rely on people to help me with stuff. So nobody's watching me, I'm probably gonna do something dumb because I'm like, it'll be fine. It can't be that bad, right? And I know, logically in here, I know it can be that bad and it will be that bad. But sometimes I can't win that argument with my own head. So that'll be a thing. Obviously, without a uterus, can't have kids. At least not naturally with me doing it. We talked about options when this first came up 2 years ago. We talked about, like, do we want to have kids, like, right to the point where we want to do it right now? Because, like, I had a period of time where we could do it. We're like, all right, if we don't do it right now, do we want to do freezing? I have too many amazing people in my life. I've actually had 3 different people offer to be surrogates for us, which is ridiculous to me that someone would make such an offer. Do not deserve you people in my life. But we've had people offer to be surrogates if we wanted to, you know, harvest eggs and do the IVF thing and do an implantation in somebody. We've had that offer. We've looked into all the logistics and the cost into freezing, and it's not as bad as I thought it would be. It was something that was like $5,000 for 10 years, which on one hand you're like, $5,000? But if you look at it for like 10 years, it's like $500 a year to freeze your eggs. And I was like, that's like a little more than $1 a day. That's like not as bad as I expected a process like that to be. But it's something that we ultimately decided, at least for the time being, that like it's not something that we are overly concerned about. If we want to have kids, we are totally open to fostering, to adoption, to all that kind of stuff. We firmly believe that it's more about nurture than nature, so we would be more than happy to adopt a child and help someone who already exists in the world if we got to that point. The nice thing is, since I'm keeping my ovaries, in 2 or 3 years, if we go, shit, maybe we should do that, it's still there and we can do things at that point. It's not like this is the be-all end-all. And I think that's part of the reason why I'm handling this as well as I am, is that, like, it is shitty. And it sucks that I can't technically make the choice of, we're gonna have kids, I'm gonna pop out a baby. But we've known it was coming for a little while, so I've had kind of time to process it and come to terms with it. And also knowing that there will still be options if we did want a child that was biologically ours. So that's definitely helping. Okay, so I invited you guys to ask questions, because this is one of those things that even in the course of asking questions, people pointed out that they've known other people who've gone through similar things or other cancers, and that, like, you can't talk about it, you can't mention it, or it's very upsetting and all of that. And I get that, I totally get that, which is why I wanted to be like, ask me. Like, no question is off the table, and I might choose not to answer it, but I want this to be an opportunity for people to ask the questions that they're not really allowed to ask somebody else, and that, like, just Googling it doesn't quite have the same impact, kind of thing. And I'm really excited that actually a lot of you did ask questions. You are an inquisitive bunch, and I like it. So I'm gonna answer some of that stuff. And if you've got more questions, please let me know. There will be more videos, and I can talk about them. But we're gonna have some answery time. If there's been any other cancers in my family, there are 2 that I can think of. I've had a relative, but by blood, I've had a relative that had a skin cancer on their nose. And I had my aunt actually also had a reproductive cancer and had a hysterectomy. She had hers after she'd already had 3 kids. She was at the age you're supposed to be at when this kind of shit happens to you. It's one of those things that there have been other cancers in the family, but they've been more age appropriate, if that makes sense. And they've also been something where it's like, it's not really a hereditary thing, if that's the goal of that question, to figure out, like, where this might have come from. My cancer, that was one of the things that kind of baffled my doctors, is that I don't have the family history that you would expect to make this happen. When you have a cervical cancer, they immediately check for HPV because that is the most common cause. I had no strains of HPV. I don't have any of the lifestyle factor risks of being overweight, of smoking, of having a large number of sexual partners. None of that stuff. They're just like, this kind of happened. Sorry. They didn't laugh. I laughed because that's just what I have to do. Somebody else asked what my support group has been like. So there are plenty of support groups that they exist on Facebook. There's plenty of forums that are dedicated to this kind of thing. There's services through the cancer center that I use. I haven't actually used any of them. And that's been kind of a conscious choice. It's not like an embarrassment thing that some people have about using a support group or anything like that. For me, it's like I looked at support groups that existed online, and a lot of them are either people who are in my situation that are at the age where they've already had kids, or were at an age where they wouldn't be having kids anyways, like people who are in their 40s and 50s. And that's kind of different because they're just like, it sucks, but it's like you're already almost menopausal, you've already gotten the use out of those organs, so it's like, that's not something I can really relate to. And then people that are in my age range, the majority of them are really upset about losing their fertility and not being able to have kids. And there's just more the emotional support of how to deal with giving up your ability to bear children. And that's not what my problem with it is. My problem with it is that, like, cancer's shitty. There's no reason I should have it. And that just sucks. And also, surgery itself freaks me out. And, like, that's more of, like, a general thing. So, I have talked to the cancer center. They have, like, free counseling services, and I'm actually going to talk to somebody just so I can get some of the surgery freak out of my system. I just need somebody to tell me that it's normal to be freaked out by that. And that it's gonna be okay. Because this kind of shit, like, unfortunately, this kind of crap happens all the time. One of the things that I had asked my doctor when she was like, this is what we're gonna do, and I'm like, okay, cool. I'm like, not saying I don't trust you. I'm like, but I'm curious, like, how often do you do this? Like, what is your experience level with doing a single-cision laparoscopic total hysterectomy? And apparently, a lot of people are ending up in shitty situations. She doesn't do it just for cancer. She does it for, like I said, what reasons you would do a partial hysterectomy as well, like for other medical reasons. She performs some form of a single incision laparoscopic hysterectomy 8 times a week, and she's been doing it for a number of years. So she's got this on lockdown. So it's like, I know I'm in good hands. I have an experienced surgeon who's got an incredibly low complication rate. Even my primary care physician was like, who's doing your surgery? I'm like, oh, it's this person. She goes, oh, she's wonderful. So I know logically it's gonna be fine, but then there's the part of my brain that's like, it's not. So, because what fun would it be without that voice? One of the other questions I got, it's kind of segued from that, is what kinds of things do I do, or activities or people do I have in my life that kind of help motivate me and inspire me to keep going during the low points? And this is gonna sound like really cliche, and it's gonna sound like I'm full of shit, and I'm sorry, but actually one of the most helpful things has been having the Rooster Teeth community and having my community surrounding all the stuff, all the content that I put out, is just having people to just screw around with and make jokes with and just, like, hang out and make dumb jokes with. That has been incredibly helpful. Because there are plenty of people who have their own life things and their own projects that they're working on and just other things to talk about that are not remotely related to it. And it's not like I need to, like, get my mind off it, but it's nice to have things that I know and people I know I can go talk to where there will not be a direct reminder of, like, by the way, you have this going on. So that's been incredibly helpful, very nice to have. It's also part of the reason I started getting more into some of my artsier kind of things, even though I don't consider myself artsy. Like, and somebody's yelling at their screen right now because they're like, you're totally artsy, and it's just like, there's things that, like, I know I could do better. And so getting to work on wigs for cosplay and getting to start patterning things out and working on painting some cool Doctor Who shoes and stuff like that is great, because it's something that requires great concentration, and it's literally a very hands-on thing with fine details, and so it requires some major focus. And so it's like my brain doesn't know how to not multitask, And so even if I'm working on something else, there's always voices in the back of my head saying, think about this, and now of course it's going, think about the fact that your organs are coming out and they're trying to kill you and cancer and blah. And it's like when I'm doing something artistic, I have to have the laser focus, and that's the one thing that seems to make all those other voices shut up. So even if the stuff I have been making has not been fabulous, having something like that to really focus on is definitely a good thing to have. Now, what's it been like dealing with the field of oncology, and how do I feel my treatment has been going? My experience has been very positive. I mean, like, no offense to anyone who's an oncologist, I'd much rather have never had to deal with you. But knowing that I've had to, my experience has been pretty great. We have a cancer center here in West Michigan where the staff is super nice, super kind. There is a therapy dog who hangs out in the lobbies now, and he's just super sweet. There's tons of volunteers that are there just to like greet you when you come in, and they have like a coffee cart with snacks and cookies on it that they bring around and offer to you while you're waiting for your appointments or waiting for your loved ones to come out of their appointments and things like that. And everyone, like, anytime I go, like when I first started going, they take your picture to put in your file, and everyone on the floor will see that in the morning before appointments start, and so they know who's going to come in. And so it's like people I've never seen before will greet me by name and be like, "Hey Jen, how are you? How's everything been going?" And they keep notes in your file about the things that you do outside of the cancer center, and they at least seem to genuinely take an interest on who you are and not just why you're there. And so it feels very personal, which is great when literally the treatment I'm getting is super personal, and I literally have multiple people up in my hoo-ha on a regular basis. Because I also let them use me for teaching, because I am a bit of a weird case. So usually they have people who are students at the medical and nursing schools nearby who will do a rotation through the cancer center, and they'll ask me, they're like, is it okay if they come in while we do your exam? And I'm like, as long as they're women, sure. I'm like, still not comfortable with like a dude I don't know showing up and getting all up in there, but they've not had any men there when I've gone in. So I usually have 4 or 5 people in the room while I'm sitting with my knees next to my head and a microscope in my vagina. So it's a little strange, but everyone's still like super nice about it. They don't mind that I swear when they take their samples because shit's painful. They like some of the new words I've come up with. So they're a huge fan of fuckberries. They laughed really hard at that one, and they're like, I'm gonna have to start using that. So they have all been very wonderful, very caring, very genuine, which has been really nice. One of the nice things about the kind of cancer that I've been dealing with is that it hasn't really had a huge impact on like my day-to-day life or anything like that. It's something where there's the voice in the back of my head that'll like take a nap, and one day I'll wake up and be like, hey, remember that you had cancer and it's probably gonna come back? You remember that? All right, just checking. And then it goes back to sleep, and I'm like, cool, great, thank you. No, I get to freak out about that a little bit, but it hasn't, because it was early stage and because of where it is. It's not like a lung cancer or anything. It's like, it doesn't impact my ability to enjoy any of the things I enjoy. It hasn't like left me with like energy level issues or motivation issues or shortness of breath or any of the other things that can come with it. It's just like, there's the persistent fear that flares up every once in a while, but that's really been the only thing that has affected my life. And then thinking about kids, like that's became a much more frequent conversation. Like every like 2 months or so, we'd be like, hey, is this something we want to do, since there's kind of like a ticking like countdown timer on these parts? Like, do we want to use them? Do we not want to use them? So that kind of started to become more like dinner table conversation. But other than that, there hasn't been a huge impact, which I also recognize I'm incredibly fortunate for. Related to that, somebody asked if it has affected like how I make plans for the future, if I only make plans for the immediate future, if I'll plan things further out. And I know for some people who have more serious cancers that they'll only look at the immediate future because they don't know how long they're going to be here going far forward. Because mine is not like that, and it's something where it's like, oh, we're going to do it, and it sucks, and whatever. GTFO, uterus, and then I get to carry on with my life. It hasn't changed how we talk about anything or make any kind of plans, other than, of course, children. Like, that was something we had to make plans for. But nothing else has really been been impacted. You know, we're still talking about when we want to move and get the hell out of Michigan winters and how far down the road that might be. We're talking about things we want to do in 10 years. We're talking in 15 and 20 and what we want to do when we're 80 and all of that stuff. So for me, it hasn't impacted anything like that. Somebody else asked if this will impact going to RTX. No, it won't. You're still stuck with me. That's the nice thing about me doing it right now. It's only got that 6-week recovery, and then that's it. So again, unless they find something super weird, I will be ready and raring to go in July. So you better bring your A game because it's gonna be real. We gonna party, but party responsibly. Somebody else asked me what they can possibly do to try to help. You know, like they're talking about me. They have a coworker whose significant other is dealing with a stage 3 cancer. And they're like, I feel really bad that all I can do is, like, say, like, I'm praying for you, like, but I don't want to be overbearing. Like, what can I do for people in that situation? And I'm going to say this, everyone's different, what they want, what they need. What I have noticed both with thoughts that I have had for myself and then what people who are going through more serious things, what has been helpful to them, because I've known other people who have gone through various cancers and various major medical things, is making sure that they know and make sure you're willing to follow through on it, but like offering to help with some of like the mundane day-to-day stuff, because the emotional drain that dealing with something serious medically has on you makes it so that way physically doing anything is just exhausting. So just saying like, hey, I'm praying for you guys, and if there's anything I can do to help make things a little bit easier, like, please really let me know. If you just need me to watch the kids for a night so you guys can go and have a date night and just relax, or if you need me to come and make dinner for a night, or, run errands for you, something like that, just like the stuff that you have to do on a regular basis, cleaning the house, helping with that, just stuff that is just like, all right, like now I have to do these things, is that will have a huge impact and will be very appreciated and be incredibly helpful to somebody that, like, you can't fix the situation, so you can at least make everything else surrounding it a little bit easier. So that would be my recommendation there, just with the conversations that I've had with even other people I've met at the cancer center, that like doing that kind of thing is huge. Purposely saved this question for last, as somebody asked me, they're like, are you scared, and what has helped you overcome this fear? And cancer's a scary word, and I think part of the reason that it's scary is part of the reason why I'm doing these videos, is because people don't know a lot about cancer. Like, you hear cancer and it's like, that is it. Like, that's a huge black mark. That is a huge impact on your life. It has huge implications. And for me, the fear of it came from a lack of knowledge. And the more I can learn about it, the less scary it gets. Like, really, in this case, knowledge is power. The fear of the unknown is a huge thing. And so for this, learning about it has been incredibly helpful, and then talking about it. Because the more I talk about it, it becomes a very factual thing, and I'm more able to easily be like, emotions go over here, and information goes over here. And be like, this is what it is, this is what it means, this is what's happening. And it's like, and I can deal with those as separate things. It gets really scary when emotions start getting to like this in information, and so being able to talk about it kind of lets me separate those things and handle them as different items and entities. And I'm not saying that everybody can do that, but for me, and maybe it's because I'm a scientist, I don't know, but learning, talking, sharing is what has made it not as scary for me. And so now I've reached the point where I'm like, I'm not scared about the cancer, I'm scared about the surgery, like that defined thing that's going to happen. And then when that's done, I shouldn't, in theory, unless my brain goes back on something, shouldn't in theory have anything else that I should be scared of. So that's kind of where I am with that. Okay, so this went way longer than I meant for it to. My apologies. Like I said, if you have any other questions that didn't get answered here, weren't answered in the last video, I just hit my arm, pay no attention to that, please feel free to ask me, and if you're not comfortable posting it publicly, shoot me a private message. Like, I've had a lot of people who send me stuff and they're like, I feel really bad asking this and I don't want to, like, make it uncomfortable. And so it's like, I'm glad that people are asking things. Really, really I am. So, yeah, we're a little less than 2 weeks out from surgery day now. And it's coming. It's coming. I hear dogs barking. I'm gonna go now. But I'll see you guys next time for what is probably gonna be an interesting just mash of words and emotions and ridiculousness. So, mwah! Bye.